Hey guys, it's Ashley, also known as Short Tail Sweetie, here with Ma. A lot of you have been asking me what it's like to keep a blood python or a short tail, as well as, how would somebody new get one, essentially, or what do they need to know before getting one. And that's kind of what are we doing here? That's kind of what I wanted to talk about a little bit today, and just explain what exactly a short-tail python is, because everybody gets confused with, well, what's a blood python? What's a Borneo python? What is a Sumatran short-tail python? So I kind of wanted to go over what exactly those are, as well as where they come from. So a short-tailed python is essentially what we have here. There's three subspecies, essentially. So you have your python, Brongersami. That's essentially your traditional blood python. When you think blood pythons, those big, beefy, red, sometimes type of short tails, and they come from Malaysia, essentially. So there's that. And then we have our Borneo short-tail, and they come from the Borneo Islands, which is right next door to Malaysia, or like the Malay Peninsula, essentially. And I've shown my Borneo short-tail Chai. He's like a yellowy type of guy. Again, if you guys check out my stuff, you guys can see him. And then you have what I love, the little goth girl in me. I love our, what I like to call the Sumatran short tails, or Python Curtis. And they are those really, really dark short tails, and they come from Sumatra. Not like the coffee, although I do love drinking Sumatra coffee. They come from the island Sumatra, which is, again, right next door to like Borneo and Malay. And they're all right next door to, the Philippines or Southeast Asia. Now, what I like about these guys, and why I got hooked, addicted, so to speak, is I love me a corn snake or a ball python or any of those small guys. But there's just something about large species that just, it's nothing like it. It's unreal. And unfortunately, I don't have space to responsibly keep a retic or a berm or any of those guys. So this is my little like big package in like a small box type of thing. So you can see she's a very large kind of girl. She's a very thick girl. But also kind of at like a 5-6 foot mark. But they are a heavy bodied type of snake. Very spankable. That's what I like about them. But yes, they are like my mini version of having a big snake. Right there. Now, normally in the blood python community, or just like a lot of sometimes snake community, there are those people that are very against breeding. Hybrids, essentially. And there's been a couple people I know that like to breed ball pythons with these guys. We like to breed ball pythons with everything. I will say I do like the Burmese python and ball python type of look. But yes, you are going to have those people that are very ill, gross, let's not breed, and, let's not breed Borneos with blood pythons, or blood pythons with Sumatrans, and vice versa, Sumatran pythons with blood pythons, etc. funny thing is, when I first purchased Ma, I thought, and I was told this is a, what did it say? I'm not calling anybody out here. A banca. So I got sold a banca blood python, and this is in fact not a banca blood python whatsoever. I learned that from just talking to a lot of I'll even call them my acquaintances, my friends. I try not to use that word lightly, friends, because, but I would consider a lot of these people mentors, acquaintances, friends, and a lot of them, again, told me and educated me that Ma is not a banca, for one, and two, we really don't think she's a blood python at all. And just throughout the years, just kind of looking at her and looking her color over the years, come here, girl. I think she is actually more of a Borneo Sumatran hybrid. So, I mean, I still love her. That's not going to change anything about her. I just, unfortunately, she will not be in any of my ever future breeding projects unless it were like pet only or like my own, very own. All of these, 15 to 20 snakes, how many ever you get, they would only be my own. So there's that. As far as housing and husbandry for these guys, and I forgot to mention, sizes and colors just vary from these guys. Obviously, when you think blood python, you think the deep reds, which I really love and I'm obsessed with, the deep reds. But then there's, with the Borneos, you get those high yellows. And of course, with Sumatran shorttails, you get that really dark look. And some of them, which I love, is you have, your chrome heads, which are like the nice gray, silvery guys. And then you have your pumpkin head Sumatrans, which they're orange. They're more orangey with the head. But all of them have really great morphs, really good patterns, obviously depending on who's breeding them. But I just love this species to almost an autistic level, let's be honest. But housing and husbandry. So first things first, when I first got this baby, and I'm just letting everybody know because it's all a learning lesson, right? Try not to keep any of your reptiles in aquariums or glass. I've learned that from a couple of my animals. This one being something that I tested that on. I kept her in a 120-gallon aquarium temporarily. Keep in mind, temporarily. But unfortunately, it's not good with heat. It's not good with humidity. And essentially what the movement essentially can't really stretch out in a glass enclosure. So I highly don't recommend it. But it's a start, I guess, for anybody that is keeping their animals out there, just to be informed. What I keep or what I recommend is usually I like PVC, and obviously making sure that it's always ventilated. And then there are people that, keep these guys in racks, and that's totally fine. To each their own. My big thing is just don't keep them in glass. Again, from somebody that has done it, I wouldn't recommend it. And then as far as temperature, humidity, etc., these guys with temp, which is really nice, they don't like it very hot, and they're gonna let you know. I'm getting pissed off. It's too hot. Kind of like you and me in the summertime, and it's too hot to argue. It's too hot to fight. But Usually I will keep her no hotter than 83. Sometimes, 83 is usually where she'll be like, hey, it's getting a little warm in here. So variety, like I should say, I usually keep on a low end about 78. That's my normal house temperature. I like it pretty warm in my house. So it's 78, and then again, no hotter than like 83. Yeah. And then temperature wise, or I should say humidity wise, it's 40 between 60 and 80% of humidity for here. I live out in the Midwest, so it gets dry, especially in the wintertime, for myself included. So if you live also somewhere that's kind of dry, it might not be a bad idea to invest in a humidifier, or just making sure that your enclosures, are misted down, or that these guys get a good soak, just humidity wise. Yeah. She likes chin scratches, head rubs. Body language wise, a lot of people say, aren't blood pythons obviously a temperamental species? And they definitely can be. Each individual is different, just like you and me. I have had good days, I've had bad days. Most of my days are good with Ma, but that's also because I handle her not every day, but a couple times a week. This is my baby. I know a lot of people will say, oh, it's just a pet, it's just a snake. No, these are, in a sense, these are my kids. But temperamental-wise, she's obviously very puppy dog-like. And you have your short tails that are very much like that. And then you have ones where my last video, that's my newest guy. He's my pure blood python, where he's taking a little bit of time, and I'm kind of going at his pace also. But body language wise, and it took me a moment to realize this is a very vocal species. So when I first got into not only the hobby and then getting into short tails, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little freaked out for a second when I have this girl. She was, in my ear doing her puffing and huffing, and I'm like, is she pissed off at me? What's happening? And this is just how she communicates. She's they are talkers. And that's what I love about them. As far as when, deciphering what is vocal, what is, I'm pissy, and then, I'm getting angry, and then what is a respiratory infection? Obviously with respiratory infections, you're going to look for stargazing, you're going to look for drooling. I've seen open mouth, where they're kind of almost panting. And then I've seen where it almost, when they're vocalizing, it sounds kind of crackly, or there's boogers in there, very nasally. That's usually how I know, ooh, we got a respiratory. Something's not right, husbandry wise. And I try to correct it. And then usually if it's obviously a bad case, I haven't had it to that point. But normally what I would suggest is somebody from a vet med background, take your animal to a vet so you can get some antibiotics, especially if it's a really bad respiratory infection. But knock on wood, I have not had it where it needed very much, antibiotics or anything like that. It was a sense of my temperature was a little bit too low at the time. Um, brain's thinking for a second. Oh, yeah. So, usually these guys will let you know when I'm pissed. I know a lot of people, when they think boas, they think, oh, it's that S pose. No, not necessarily the case for these guys, at least for this one. She likes to move. I usually have my hands too, if it were to ever get to that point, controlling her head. But usually you'll know if you've ever dealt with a spicy snake. They'll stare at you, or kind of just like stiffen up, and there's not a lot of tongue flicks, and they'll just lock eyes with you for a moment, and that's usually how I can tell we're not having a good day, especially with this guy over here. But yeah, main thing is everybody's a individual. You have your very friendlies, and then you have your ones that are very much like, I would rather not be touched today. A really good book that I always will advocate in shout out is my good old friend Richard Crowley. So this is actually going to tell you more too, if you ever decide, if you're a newbie getting into short tails, it tells you where they come from, obviously. The subspecies, your temperatures, your feeding, their growth rate. If you decide you want to breed, and if it's a business plan for you. Different morphs, different people that you can, look into, different type of diseases, how to sex, definitions. There's really beautiful pictures in here. Let me see if I can get one to show you guys some of these really pretty reds. Give me a second. Wait, I'm going to show you. Wait. Well, amazing. But yeah, this is just a really great book. It also tells you feeding wise, because these guys are really great eaters, what is an appropriate size to feed, how frequent, in order to not have an overweight, flaccid animal, which I've been there. Yeah. So when I first, again, I'm giving you guys all of my mistakes so that if you guys ever do get into it, you can not do what I did. But when I first got Ma, I was feeding her jumbo rats weekly, bi-weekly. And I got told very quickly, you are feeding her way too much. And I said, oh, okay, well, what's an appropriate size? And there are people that do it, they're like medium rats, essentially. I don't weigh, because I don't breed my own feeders, and I usually just ask whoever I'm getting my feeders from what I want. So I call them medium. They're about medium-sized rats, and I feed her pretty much every 3 to 4 weeks. Sometimes she can last a little bit longer. Just because if you think in the wild, they're not eating as frequent. If you think about it out there, they're really not. We as keepers feed our animals way too much sometimes. So she gets a feeding, essentially either a medium or a large, every month, essentially. I've been trying to cut her back, which she's not happy with, but you do what you got to do to have a healthy animal. Oh my God. But yeah, a lot. And then if you ever do decide that, hey, I do want to check out A Passionate Journey with Short-Tailed Pythons by Richard Crowley himself. You can get that over on Amazon. And then also, bonus, if you guys ever go to Tinley, I don't know if he's going to be, how frequent he comes every time, but when he does, you can get your book signed. Get your book signed. Meet the guy. He's so cool. But mentors and just people in the community that have helped me and who I've watched when I first got into these guys, I'll give a appreciation and shout out is obviously Richard Crowley, Dan Magano, I think that's his last name, Dan. He no longer keeps short tails, but his videos are really still informative and up there. And I do like watching them, especially, again, when it comes to defensive snakes. I'm learning. I love to learn. I love to correct mistakes. Even though I hate making mistakes, I do like correcting my mistakes. So I watch, Rich or Dan when it comes to defensive and how to handle. I really appreciate the Snake Gawd, Dre, because when I first got into it, I was like, Kato, oh my god, cool. That, and it's just another brother from in the community. And then I really appreciate, as a woman, Sarah from BlueBonnet. She's always got really cool stuff, really informative. I love chatting with her. Elijah from Juggernaut and his lady. Jalil from Savage Reptiles. I love him. Python department. I'm just naming everybody that I've spoken to, just asking questions. And again, some of these people I consider my friends at this point because they've helped me not only through short tail and learning, but just personal stuff too. Who else? I like Sound Serpent. He was the one that told me, girl, that is not a blood python. I don't even know what type of morph that is right now. And then just learning, and his stuff's still up there, and it still amazes me with what he still has, and the impact that he has put on the community. Is Nick from Cold-Blooded Earth. So he's left a really big impact. And also, just, again, the gears, you can see the gears turning. Just all of these people I appreciate and I respect and I love them. So thank you. And I'm sorry if I just, rambled. But I just kind of, a lot of people have been asking me, essentially, how do I keep one? What's, the difference? And I will say all short tails, all short tails, not all blood pythons. What's the saying that I always say to people? Blood pythons are short tails, but not all short tails are blood pythons. That's usually what I tell everybody, just to decipher the species. And I can finally say, I feel, and I'll consider her a Sumatran. I have all three species. That's my goal. And I love learning about these guys. And they are definitely my passion, for sure. But yeah, back to what I was saying, I've had a couple people, which I was shocked, again, you guys are asking me, out of all people, or you want my input on how to keep short tails, or, again, how to start, and then everybody's asking me too, they're like, when are you going to pump out more content for your channel and your podcast? And I don't know if it's really going to be a podcast. It might just be a couple live streams and bullshit and excuse my language. But I appreciate everybody just like even wanting to hear from me in my opinion. And it's cool. It's cool to see that people are like, well, what do you have to say? And, you know, I enjoy watching you, and that's cool. Before things get emotional and I get off on a tangent, I just want to send, again, thank you to everybody. And then I'll send everybody off with a, be sweet and go love a short tail. Bye.